Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about human heart and circulatory system. We'll focus on human heart, but I have to mention some basics about circulatory system so you understand how the heart is hooked up to the rest of our body. But before we go there, I wanted to give you an idea how important a circulatory system and human heart is within a context of our body we have here. So human body consists of 36 trillion cells. 36 trillion cells. Of course, it varies from person to person, but that's the ballpark. So if you take such a big number of cells and you want to deliver nutrients and oxygen and take the waste products from those cells, you need a system to do so. So single cell organisms very often rely on diffusion. So they are immersed in some liquid and they take nutrients from the liquid and they pump the waste products into the liquid. So if you want to use this mechanism and put those cells, human cells, side by side, you need some space between those cells to allow this diffusion to work, right? So they don't pollute the environment and they have space to take oxygen and nutrients from the liquid via diffusion. So if we do something like that, then human body would need to be a Olympic pool, swimming pool size, right? We would be huge if we rely on diffusion just to deliver nutrients and oxygen to our cells. So in order to deliver those nutrients to these 36 trillion cells, we have to have a certain delivery system that allows mechanical, physical, geometrical compression of this body, right? So we are not the swimming pool size creatures, but we have our body compressed. So the circulatory system does exactly that. It's a system of highways that delivers nutrients to every single cell. And it's very efficient. It can deliver oxygen and can take waste products from every single cell. So you understand, because those cells are compressed, if this delivery system malfunctions, then they will pollute themselves, they will be toxic to each other, releasing those waste products, and they will just die because they won't have enough oxygen, right? So this delivery system is key. Now, at the heart of this delivery system, which we call the circulatory system, we have a pump. And this pump moves the fluid, moves the cars on the highway, the delivery cars, and because of this pump, the entire system has an energy to provide oxygen, nutrients, and to remove waste materials from every single cell. Okay, having said that, I have to simplify certain things because the entire system is pretty complex. As you will see today, the circulatory system has many components, and I don't want to confuse you with the names and sketches and unnecessary pieces of information. I want you to give you the gist of the circulatory system and human heart. So let's start with the simplification, engineering simplification of the circulatory system. So imagine that you have 4 zip codes in your body. You have upper body, you have lower body, you have left lung, and you have a right lung. So those zip codes are served by different parts of the circulatory system. So you will see, as we talk about anatomy of human heart, you will see connections to those 4 zip codes: upper body, lower body, right lung, left lung. Okay? All right, at the center of those zip codes, we have our Amazon warehouse. This is where everything gets delivered and it gets distributed to other zip codes, yeah, according to the needs. Now, the lungs, of course, they take oxygen from the environment and they remove CO2 from human body, right? So those 2 zip codes, they are gas exchange factories. The upper and lower body, they of course they have multiple functions, but basically they have to get this oxygen from those 2 zip codes, the lungs, and they also have to send CO2 to those zip codes, right? So they get oxygenated blood from the lungs and they send blood with CO2 to the lungs to perform this exchange, to get fresh blood and send out the CO2 carrying blood out. All right, so we have this cross configuration for zip codes. Let's talk about how the pump is constructed. So I wanted to start with a simplified diagram, right? And we'll talk about a very simple diagram that describes a human heart. So human heart is inside this red line, this dashed red line. Here you have right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. So you see that we have 4 chambers inside a human heart. I'll explain the functions of those chambers, but they are also connected to the upper body, lower body, left lung, and right lung, right? Okay, so how they are connected. The left lung and right lung via veins, pulmonary veins, they deliver blood, oxygenated blood. By the way, these are the only veins that carry oxygenated blood, right? Other veins, they carry blood with CO2 with minimal oxygen. So those deliver fresh blood to the left atrium. From this atrium, blood gets to the left ventricle, and left ventricle pumps this blood to the lower body and to the upper body using a big pipe called an aorta. All right. Now, on the other side of the heart, the right side of our heart, we have right atrium and right ventricle, and right atrium gets blood, which is mostly blood with CO2. It gets blood from superior vena cava, which communicates with upper body, and inferior vena cava that communicates with lower body, right? So those 2 big veins deliver blood to the right atrium. Again, this blood carries CO2, right? And this then is pumped to the right ventricle, and the right ventricle sends it to the lungs, and lungs expel the CO2 and take O2, and then the cycle repeats itself. Oxygenated blood goes to left atrium, left ventricle, and goes to lower and upper body. So this is how this pump is connected. So whenever you have you feel a confusion about the connection, just think upper, lower body, right lung, left lung, and this set of connections here. All right. Unfortunately, this engineering diagram needs to be converted into a meat machine, right? A machine that is built of human tissue. And when you convert this to a meat machine, you're gonna get something like this. All right? These are equivalent, but of course, it's a little bit more confusing. The solid black line, this is what we call a proper heart. That's actually the heart. The light black line, these are the arteries and connections that deliver blood to the heart. So let's trace those connections first, and then we'll talk about what's inside. So you have pulmonary veins. Yeah, one set of veins comes from one lung, another set of veins comes from another lung, and as you remember, those four veins go to the left. To the left atrium, right? They take oxygenated blood from the lungs, and this blood goes to the left atrium. Then we have a valve right after the atrium. We have a valve here, and maybe before we do that, let's go back to this diagram. I gave you those four red circles. They tell you where the valves are. We have four valves in a human heart, and these are just one-way valves, right? So they pretty much work the same, all of them. If you have one chamber here, or one anatomical structure here, another here, the valve looks mostly like that. If the pressure on this side is bigger than pressure on this side, then the valve will not allow the blood to go down. However, if this pressure is greater than this pressure, then the valve will open. Yeah, they work like this. We have four of them. They have slightly different designs. They are not exactly, if you look at them, they are not exactly the same. I'll talk about it later, but basically they block blood from going backwards. Sometimes we have diseases that actually make those valves leak, and that's another issue. But today let's focus on a proper function, physiological function, not pathophysiological function. All right, so we have, let's go back to this picture. We have four veins pulling blood into the left atrium, and from the left atrium through the valve, which is called a mitral valve here, it goes to the left ventricle. By the way, this mitral valve is very interesting because it holds the highest pressure differential in human body. Yeah? This is the lowest pressure, the venous pressure here, and this is the highest pressure in the system. That's the systolic pressure eventually, right? If the left ventricle squeezes, it gets to 120, 140, even higher millimeters of mercury. So this is the highest point, pressure point in the system, and this is almost the lowest point within the system. Okay, so from this ventricle, blood gets pumped into the aorta. You see, it goes into the aorta, and this goes into the upper body. Yeah, goes to the upper body using those vessels here. Then it turns down and it goes to the lower body. Right. So this is how the left ventricle distributes blood to upper body and to your cranium, by the way, and to the lower body by this aorta that eventually goes down. And on the arc of aorta, you have those three vessels that pump blood into the head and upper body. All right, so this is left ventricle. Again, left ventricle gets blood from the left atrium and then pushes it into the aorta. On the right side, we have blood coming from the upper body via superior vena cava. Yeah, it goes into the right atrium. Here we have a valve, as you remember. We have a valve. This valve allows this blood to go into the right ventricle. It does not allow this blood to go back this way. And then this ventricle, when it squeezes, it pumps blood into the pulmonary artery. And this pulmonary artery distributes blood into the left and right lung to get oxygenated, right? So deoxygenated blood gets from the upper body and lower body via inferior vena cava, superior vena cava, then gets to the right ventricle and gets pumped to the lungs. In the lungs it gets oxygenated and then goes back to the right atrium, right ventricle, and gets pumped into the upper and lower body. All right. So I think we're ready to take a look at our specimens here. couple of points about those specimens. These are sheep hearts. We have 2 hearts here. This is how it looks like. So in my chest, this would be like this. The apex usually looks this way. Yeah? It points a little bit at an angle down, and you see the front side of the heart here. That's the back side of the heart here. The structures, I did not remove the fat. You see that we have a lot of fat here. We have coronary arteries. You see the places here. This is covered with this fat layer, and this is a heart muscle, the apex. What's interesting here, you have an aorta. Here's the aorta. So this pumps, then it goes into this big bend, yeah, like this, and then distributes blood into the upper and lower body. And here we have pulmonary artery that pumps blood into the lungs. And somewhere here, which I cannot see right now, we should see pulmonary veins, but I have to cut it open to see it. Okay. What's also interesting here, on the right side, under this fat, we have 2 nodes, and these are the oscillators, electrical oscillators that will control the heart rate. So we have 2 nodes. We have an SA node and V8 node, and I'll talk about it later. But they basically they are pacemakers, and they control the heart rate. Sometimes there is a miscommunication between those 2 nodes, and you have the sinoatrial node, SA node cut off, and then the AV node takes over. It's a pathophysiological situation, but basically you have 2 pacemakers here. Heart muscle tissue is interesting because it can create those pacemakers almost in any place, which is not good for us, but it happens. So sometimes you can see spontaneous pacemaker forming due to some pathophysiological conditions, and you will have those pulses also spreading within the muscle. All right, so that's the external look of the heart. I got them. Yeah. No. No, I cannot see them here. We'll take a look later. Okay, so when you cut this heart this way, what you're gonna discover is the 2 ventricles. Yeah? You see that one ventricle has rather meaty and thick walls. See the walls here. This is muscle. And this is a left ventricle. This is how you can recognize the left ventricle, because it has very thick muscles around it. And the right ventricle has very thin, or relatively thin muscle layer especially on the outside. The reason is left ventricle is a pressure pump, as we call it. The right ventricle is a volumetric pump, and the work performed by the right ventricle is roughly 5 to 6 times smaller compared to the left ventricle power. And this is caused by the higher pressure on the left side of the circulatory system. All right, so what we see here, you see those strings. So they actually are supporting the valve. This is the mitral valve I was talking about. So if I go here, yeah, I'm gonna go to the atrium. Yeah, see, so the blood comes from the lungs here. They go through the mitral valve. It looks like a parachute here, you see the structures here. It looks like a parachute, and then goes in, and from this left ventricle it gets ejected into the aorta. Yeah. On the other hand, the right ventricle here gets blood from the tricuspid valve. It also has strings, as you can see here. And then goes to the pulmonary artery and the blood gets out here. So it's pretty complex and messy. It's not very clear when you just cut the heart open what is what. You see that those strings from the mitral valve are connected to the bottom of the left ventricle. Yeah, okay. Now the apex, this is a septum between those two chambers, and it's not only muscle, it also carries a signal from the nodes, from the pacemakers. So when they trigger the contraction, the signal goes here through this piece of tissue, through this wall to the apex, and then it gets distributed outside. Yeah? So this is how the signal travels. So when you look at the timing of the heart contraction, you will see that it contracts gradually from the bottom, from the apex, to the top where the valves are, right? The valves that deliver blood and remove blood from the ventricles. So this is importance of the apex. Also in artificial hearts, sometimes if you build a bypass or a left ventricular assist device, you use the apex to take blood from the left ventricle. So you can actually punch a hole in the apex, put a cannula inside, and this blood will be redirected to the artificial heart, and then the artificial heart pumps it into the aorta. But that's a topic for another video. Just mentioning because from my perspective, engineering perspective, that's interesting. I'll show you another cross section because I think it's also important to understand the difference between right and left heart. So right now I'm gonna take another specimen and I'm gonna cut it this way, right? So it's not gonna be this projection, it's gonna be cut here. So let's see how this looks like. All right, beautiful. All right, so this is interesting because it kind of confirms my point. This is the left ventricle. You see that this thickness is huge compared to the thickness of the right ventricle, right? Right ventricle is like a pocket, almost like a pocket wrapped around the left ventricle. And this is exactly, it's caused by the fact that left ventricle pumps 5 to 6 times more energy per unit of time compared to left ventricle. All right, we're gonna stop here. I'm gonna continue those lectures about human heart and circulatory system. We'll also talk about brain. We have already some specimens and connection between the pulmonary system and cardiovascular system to show some interesting physiological phenomena on specimens like that. Thank you very much and talk to you soon. Thank you.